even the way that we have come to understand human experience is predicated on accountability. 3,500 years, maybe even 5,000 years, depending on where you draw the line at, of cultural evolution that gave us the foundation for the Western values that we have. They're all contingent on the fundamental idea that, to some degree, the individual is autonomous, has fundamental rights because of that autonomy, and can be held to account for any decisions that that person makes because of their autonomy. If we don't have choice, if we don't have will, if we don't have autonomy, then what?
Is that what you just said conflicting with the fact that we as humans have created or interpreted much of nature as like gods? You know, we have always said there's a higher being ever since we've started gathering in groups. And, you know, a lot of it, I can put myself in those shoes. And if I didn't have any other information, I would assume the noise coming from the sky, the thunder, was a god. It's a entity up there doing that, because it is extremely unnatural if you take yourself out of our modern knowledge. And we've always had this inclination to do that. So are those things conflicting? Are they compatible? The fact that we're autonomous, but we're contributing a lot of what happens to us to gods?
I've got a two-part answer for that. The first part is that, returning to the useful fiction piece, I think much of the motivation for us to externalize or to fundamentally humble ourselves to something like that is as a limiting principle, because we do have autonomy. And with that autonomy, we have the danger of choosing danger, right? So we have that limiting principle of self-preservation, where we are autonomous creatures. We do have choice, but to help steer the bulk of us to choosing healthier versus deadlier more often than not, we have that sense of awe to keep us all, to keep the system stable. The second part of my answer to that will be a revisit to our social circles, in that I think people just fundamentally have an innate, I'm going to say desire, but I also think an innate behavior of anthropomorphizing things. And I think part of that is because it makes it relatable and understandable, because we are embodied in a particular way. I'm not a thunderstorm, right? I'm a conscious agent as a human being. I only understand the world as a human being. If I could see through a bird's eyes right now, it wouldn't make sense to me, because I'm not embodied as a bird, right? That's why you can, you know, you could build a system of mirrors and goggles that at least physically perfectly mimics the eightfold optical structure of arachnids. But that doesn't mean you're going to experience the world any differently, right? You put the goggles on and you might see, but you're still interpreting it through a binocular framework, even though it's mirrors, right? It's still, we're bounded. The nature of how we understand experience is bounded by our embodiment in that system, by our embodiment in what we are embedded in, right? That's why those two are part of the 4E consciousness model. The other two are inaction and extending, right? So the fact that we can plan policies and take stabs at conceptualizing how those are going to affect further generations. That's that extension piece. And then inaction is being able to act as agents in this embedded, embodied, extended environment that we're in. Right? And that anthropomorphization allows, when there is even just like knee-jerk reaction, uncertainty, we fill that in ways that our brain will understand, which is anthropomorphically.